Welcome to the Take a Mulligan podcast with your hosts, Brian and Kenny Mulligan. We hope to encourage you not to quit and keep going. If you're at that place where you just want to stop and give up, don't. Second chances can happen. Try again and take a mulligan.
Hey, welcome back to Take a Mulligan podcast. Happy New Year. It's good to get back again. We had a little time off through the holidays, so it's nice to finally be recording again. Good to see you, Ken. And happy to jump back into the new year here.
It is. I can't believe we're like 2 weeks into, actually almost 3 weeks into the new year already. This is crazy.
Yeah, we got
Absolutely
a little later
crazy.
start getting back on the podcast here than we were hoping. So
We did. Technical difficulties, but we got to figure it out hopefully. And hopefully this will be good. So, hey, Brian, I know we talked about this personally, but a couple weeks, actually it'd be 2 weeks ago this Friday is do you know what that is?
Well,
January 10th.
I know because you told me.
It is National Quitters Day. I find that phenomenal. National Quitters Day was January 10th already, which means people are already quitting their New Year's resolution 10 days in. I'm like, that's insane.
No perseverance at all in that one.
No, it's crazy. Wow. So they say by the year's end, at 92% will have given up on their New Year's resolutions throughout the year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
92% doesn't even follow through. Wow. So now we're going to talk about a little bit about New Year's resolution, but we're gonna take a little different twist because I want to talk about something more productive because 92% people are failing on this thing.
Something's not working.
Yeah, something's not working. That's for sure. Yeah. So we'll handle it with a little twist, but as you're thinking, what do you think? Why do you think people like make these New Year's resolutions to begin with? Like, what do you think's going on in some people's minds?
Well, it's that old Lang Syne song, right? It's forget all the old stuff, and we got a whole new year to look forward to. So I love the thought of, we have 365 new opportunities in a new year, and you look at it a different way. I know we're into day 20 already. It's the 20th of January already. So we're a little bit behind, but in a new year, you have 365 days. So it's a whole new year, but 365 new opportunities to either do something better, learn something new, create a different habit, do something. So I think it's exciting to people at times. I think some people, they really are glad to see the prior year go, depending on if they had a lot of struggles, a lot of stress. Some might have had an amazing year, so they're hoping for another amazing year. I think people that had really bad years are really excited to get rid of that one and look forward to a new year. So even though, December 30th may not really look much different than January 5th on their life calendar of stress and stuff, I guess they're still hoping that at some point through the new year, things will change. So I guess it's a nice way to look at it as a restart or a refresh for the new year. I guess that's why people do it. Have you personally been a big guy on doing resolutions every year?
Yeah, no, I actually have not. I mean, there's usually a few things that I'm saying, okay, I'd like to do it this year that I haven't done in the past, but I'm not like, okay, day one, it's like, okay, here's my 10 years resolutions. I don't know. Have you done any?
I have done over the years a little bit, but I think more so, I like to call them goals more than resolutions. I think resolutions just has a negative connotation because 98% fail rate, right? So I think it's a little bit more negative than talking about like goals. And, for those of us who are interested in personal growth and development, goals are our bigger term. I like to try to set some personal goals. And I think more of the standard ones I would have is more for my business life moving forward into the new year. And usually I will write those out, which is kind of strange because I don't really write out any personal or family goals. I've seen some people do that. I think it's pretty wild, and it's a really cool idea to do, to throw up on the refrigerator the goals for the family for the year, and they can be very creative. But yeah, traditionally I don't really like set up resolutions. I do like to think of the new year though as like, okay, what am I going to get done in this year? Because the other one's gone. What can we accomplish in this new year? So I do like to think that, but I'm not real great at actually putting it down on paper and following through all the way either.
Okay.
How about you?
So what do you think? Yeah, I mean, one of the things I want to do this year is read more. So I'm really trying to read. Oh man, I got this cough. So, oh boy, came out of nowhere. So I think I'm doing pretty good on that. started a new book. Actually, it's a great book. I highly recommend this book. It's called Lead Like It Matters by Craig Rochelle. And it's a redo of his book called It years ago. And so my goal is really, I would say my goal is to read just one book a month.
Yeah.
But I'm really trying to read just a chapter a day. So if I could just read one chapter of a book a day. Now I'm not doing it every day, but I'm like, okay, so I messed up yesterday. Let me pick up another one. But if I could do that should easily get one book a month, and hopefully two. But if I could do one book, it'd be nice to look at the end of the year and say, man, I read 12 good books this year, at least.
And I think reading is so interesting to me because I hated reading when I was in school.
I did too.
I mean, I could never read well because I was such a slow reader. So I would take so long, and then it's like, oh, what did I just read? I just read 5 pages. I have no idea what I just read. And I got discouraged by reading. And then probably about, 8 years ago, we started working with the health and wellness company. I just really wanted to dive into, personal growth and development stuff, started to read a lot of books on leadership. And I really enjoy reading now. Like, I want to learn more about those topics and topics that are interesting to me. So I am more motivated to read now. And I really do actually enjoy reading. I wish I could get up to a point of reading one book a month, but I think usually what I do is like, oh, let me get this book. So I have like 5 going at one time, and it's like, I almost finished that one, and I got to just focus in on one. But one thing I am hoping to read this whole year, though, is actually read through the Bible. So I'm working through an app to go through the whole Bible this year. So that's exciting. And so far, day 20, I'm on track. So that's good.
That's cool. So we'll have to go back to that topic a little later as we talk about it somewhere else. So let's talk about some of the top resolutions for 2025. So what do you? I'm guessing most of our listeners are probably saying, "Well, weight loss is probably one of them." So what's some of the, before we look at what they are? What are like some of the other things you think right off the top of the head you think our people are into?
Well, it's always going to be eating healthier, exercising more, losing weight. Some of the ones I've seen too has been like, saving money or spending more time with family. They seem to be the top ones.
Yeah, they do. Although we were talking about saving money, we were looking for the gas prices dropping today already as we were driving home. Like,
I know they just went up around here like 2 weeks ago again and stayed there.
Yeah, but hopefully it'll start dropping. You think about that, just something, talk about saving. I know we get off tangent here, but it's amazing when gas prices doubled, just even within a few years, it's like, that's a huge chunk of money every month. Like, just forget everything else. Just gasoline alone. Yeah. That's a huge, we do a lot of traveling. So if you're spending $300-400 a month on travel, all of a sudden now you might be saving $200 to $300 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
So
it's interesting because there's a lot of those top categories, right? Or what are they talking about? Health.
Yeah, they are. So why don't you list off the top 5? Go ahead.
So the top 5 were saving money. 21% people say that. Eat healthier. 19% say that. Exercise more. 17%. Lose weight. 15%. And spend more time with family and friends. 14%.
Okay.
And then quit smoking fell down on the bottom there at 9%, which is, you don't think about that much anymore because so many people are doing different things with vaping and hopefully getting off of cigarettes completely. But
that's true. But yeah, those are pretty neat statistics, though. Like, I think that's, it is interesting how much is around health, though, right? Because you got 3 of them.
Yeah.
Right? Eat healthier, exercise more, lose weight. Well, quit smoking is health, too, related.
Yeah, exactly. Even really money, right? That's, has to do with stress levels and different aspects of our health. So I think a lot of those fall into health, which is interesting because that's really the top priority for most people's resolutions on paper or when they're being polled, I guess. But then what happens? They're all done. Hopefully, most of them, within the first month, they're already stopped worrying about them.
Yeah. Well, I know we've talked about this before, but 95% of diets fail. So that's a huge number when people try to start getting into that stuff. So so a couple things, just thinking about that off the top of our heads, especially we're in health and nutrition. Your goal should not be to lose weight. Your goal should be to lose fat, not weight. Now, sometimes the weight will come with the fat, but if you're concentrating on losing fat, that's what you want to go after. Because a lot of times people lose weight and then they're losing lean muscle. So anyway, keep that in mind if you're out there trying to lose weight, and keep the focus on losing fat. So some of the other things were reducing stress people are looking at, right? They want to volunteer, take a vacation.
It's interesting too when you think about the gyms, because most people, that are in a gym setting, they recognize that, there's this huge influx of people in January. And I think the stats are like by beginning to mid-February at the latest, it's kind of all back to normal again. I was just talking to a patient today and he was saying the exact same thing. He's like, I hate the beginning of January because the gym is so crowded. And then he said by the end of January, he said they're all gone and it's back to the regular people that are there all the time. And they're the ones that stick there.
Well, I have to say, so far at the gym, it's been pretty crowded. So people are still sticking to it.
Good.
So we'll see if it fades off beginning of February.
I was speaking to a group of seniors at a senior center last week, and I was talking about this whole concept of resolutions versus goals. And it was interesting because there was, I guess, about 101 people in the room, and I asked them the same question, like, how many of you, do resolutions? Not one hand went up in the whole group.
Wow.
So I said, so that either means that you guys are smart enough now that you're older that you figure you're never going to keep them, so you don't do them, or you're just never concerned about them.
Did they give you feedback or no?
No, not much. They just laughed.
Yeah. So why do you think most people give up on them?
I think it's always, in my profession, we're always talking about goals. I mean, it's as a PT, I need to set goals for my patients. That's a big part of the reason why insurance will pay, because they know we're trying to achieve goals. So my job is very goal oriented for the patient, but I always ask the patients what their goals are too. And I think what happens is people just get too discouraged too quickly. And I mean, I see it all the time with my patients. And what I try to tell them, even for simple things, when it comes to when I'm giving them a home exercise program to work on, sure, I'd love to see them do it like, 3 times a week kind of deal. But I tell them all, I'm like, listen, if you're not doing anything right now, your goal is once a week. Because 3 times a week already, you probably looked at that and thought, I'm never going to do it 3 times a week. And I don't even try for 5 days or every day to do stretching. I usually just tell them, I'm like, listen, let's just shoot for something that's achievable. And I think that's a much better success rate, because if they know that they could do it once a week and they could commit to that. And that's what I always tell them. Like, if you know you can commit to once a week and you start doing that and you're noticing a benefit, then just add another day on. Now you're up to 2, and then, work your way from there. Because I think too often, whether it's the gym goals or the weight loss goals or the exercise goals, even the money goals, that people have, I'm going to save this much this month, and I'm going to save this much this month. I think the goals get too lofty for people. And then they notice a failure, even with your reading. You said, you miss a couple days here, and all of a sudden now it's like, well, now am I going to finish a book in a month? So now your goal that you set for yourself might be gone, and there's the discouragement, and it's much easier to follow discouragement half the time. So I think people just fade out and they don't follow through with it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think we set these idealistic goals that are like, they're way out there. You're like, I'm going to eat healthier. Well,
yeah.
Why not just one meal a week? Like, what if you just say, you know what? I'm going to learn a new meal this week, and it's going to be completely healthy. Whatever that. Now, it doesn't mean you're eating terrible all the rest of the week. It just means you're trying to create a new meal that's totally healthy. So, you don't have the carbs in there, the bad carbs. You don't have, any of that kind of stuff. Just one meal. Now you created a meal. You learned it. You like it or you don't like it. Keep it in your recipe book or not. But again, it's that smaller goals. So I got a friend that wants to start, exercise and stuff like that. And, now they have my personal training stuff. I was like, hey, I'll help you. So we tried to set up a time and it didn't work. And then we decided another time it didn't work. Then we set up another time, it didn't work. And I was like, okay, here's the deal. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick 3 days a week, and I want you to go down to the gym, because he has access to a gym, right? I said, 15 minutes on the treadmill. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all I want you to do. Let's get to 3 days a week down, 15 minutes. That's it. That's all you want me to do. That's all I want you to do. Because, if it's taken, a few months just to get someone to get on the system, they're not going to stay with it. You got to get those habits down, Which so let's talk about that, because a lot of people are probably frustrated. They're not getting anywhere. So let's talk about the best place to start. And I know Brian, you and I have gone through so many training on this kind of stuff. So where do you think is the best place to start when it comes to setting a new direction?
Well, I think there's a couple of things to look at. One is, the big question is always, what's your why? What are you going to do? But the bigger question is why? And I think diving into that a little bit more is the who. Who are you? Do you really know who you are and what you can accomplish? And I think recognizing your limits and your abilities and, what you can accomplish, I think is also very helpful. And I think what's nice is when you start to go through a pattern of either changing your habits, working towards goals, you recognize in yourself the ability to accomplish things. And that's where the big wins come in. So the why is always that one thing that stands out, that it has to start with that. I want to lose weight. Why? Because I want to fit into a bathing suit for the summer. Okay, that's great. There's your why. I want to lose weight. Why? Because I just want to be healthier and be able to walk. So that's another great why. I want to save some money this summer. Why? Because I want to go on a vacation with my family. So it really always comes back to the why. And I think that is the big reason that people sometimes miss.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. They start doing these things, create lists and all that kind of stuff. And they're not, why? What's driving you? Because you have to have that drive underneath you. I know, again, just hitting 60. So, although I can't say just anymore. Now we're in the next year and I'm going to be 61 before this year's out. But I tell you, I mean, here we are, new grandparents, and I don't hesitate to get on the floor with the kids and crawl around and have fun, right? I mean, I know they're infants, but hey, we can still crawl on the floor. But I know a lot of grandparents who are younger, like they're not that much older than us or younger than us. And they're like, yeah, I just can't get on the floor with my grandkids. And we're like, okay, so my goal is great grandkids. Okay, that's my why. Why do I want to stay in shape and get physical? I want to be on the floor with my great grandkids. And that's probably 25, 30 years from now. So if I want to do that, then I got a lot of work to keep doing, right? To make sure I'm healthy and able and mobile when I hit, what is that, like 90? I don't know. Like I'll probably be 90 by then, right? So, so I think the why is really big. I know, Simon Sinek talks about like that a lot. I think it's one of the best books I ever read was Why by Simon Sinek. So if anybody is looking for a good book on that subject, I highly recommend his book. I love the saying, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough. And I think that's great because it's like, man, you gotta be passionate about it. This is why I want to do this.
And it's such a mindset thing. And that's something I've learned a lot over the last, again, 6, 7, 8 years that I wish I knew when I was 19, 20, 21. I'm trying to kind of instill it in my adult kids, but they're not as passionate about learning about it as I became. And again, I wish I knew it earlier. I love one of these quotes is great. It starts with your mind, because where your thoughts begin, your actions will follow.
Whoa.
So you can't do anything unless it starts with your mind. And it's so hard because so many people struggle with self-doubt, whether or not they can accomplish things, whether or not they really have enough self-discipline to get through something and be able to accomplish something. So it always starts in your mind. And our minds are really dangerous places because they just tell us so many lies all the time, and I personally struggle with that all the time, with confidence and, whether or not I can handle this or do this, and whether I'm really, am I right person for this? And am I really worthy of being able to do this or do that? I struggle with that a lot. And I think a lot of people do. And I don't know if a lot of people can recognize it to talk about it or want to talk about it.
No, our thoughts they're powerful. I mean, I struggle with it too. It's like, you're not good enough for that. Why do you think you could do that? Right. And our minds, they try to determine our path, whether we want them to or not. Right. Because we want something different, but our mind keeps saying, no, we're not that, I think I shared this when we talked about health a while ago, but I remember when I first started looking at the whole health thing, and I'm like, I'm not one of those people who, go to the gym and carry a water bottle around with them all day long. And when you don't see yourself there, right? It goes back to those thoughts, right? It's that vision of where you want to go, then you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you only drink like a cup of water every day, still carry a water bottle around with you. Because guess what? You may start drinking more,
Yeah.
It's that whole thing of become that image in your mind before you can ever become it. If you don't see it, that goes back to the old saying, Disney, I and you probably know this one, right? You've heard that Walt Disney, somebody had once said that, it was a shame he never lived to see Walt Disney World, And so he says, well, no, of course he saw it, because if he didn't see it, it would have never happened.
Mm.
The fact that he died before it was finished, no, he saw it. He did see it, and that's why it started to get built. And that's a guy who didn't give up, man.
Yeah, I mean it's having that vision, and I think a lot of people are bad at being visionaries or having a vision. I think we get so comfortable with comfort. It's too easy to scroll through our phones for hours and waste time because it's I had a long day. I owe it to myself to just sit and do nothing and be mindless. And I struggle with that a lot because I could easily do that, but there's like this inner thing inside of me that says, no, that's kind of wasting a lot of time. Like, what else could you be doing? Could you be reading something? Could you be learning something? Could you be doing something around the house or something for your business that needs to get done? I mean, I think we all need to take a break, but I think it's also important to recognize, what do we do with that downtime? Because the downtime doesn't have to be mindlessly scrolling through our social media for hours and hours. It could be reading a book or reading an article or listening to a podcast or doing something just to improve yourself or learn more.
Yeah. And what's I don't know, it's been a while since I looked at the stat, but I think it's like 2.5 hours per day people are wasting scrolling or on social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, it might even be more than that at this point, because it seems like that's not even that much anymore. Yeah.
Hey, man, you can read a whole chapter in 15 minutes to a half hour of a book.
Yeah.
That's 5 chapters in a day.
Yeah.
Most books are only like 10 to 15 chapters. So it's like, you can read a book in 3 days if you just stop scrolling. It's like, wow. So tying into thoughts, have you ever done a vision board?
No, I never have, actually. Have you?
Okay. I can't say that I totally haven't, because actually one of my screens on my computer is now one of the incentive trips with ID Life, because I'm like, I want to go. I just want to go. So I got to have it in front of me all the time. I want to see it. And so I'm thinking, I really should put other things up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's important? Go back to that why. What's some of those important things? Because otherwise you lose, a day goes by and you're like, oh yeah, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll do a little tomorrow, and then the week's gone. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, next week I'll work on it some more,
Well, even if you think about people that had, committed to say, okay, I'm going to do this in this new year, and I'm going to start in January, and they were planning on January 1st and they haven't yet. Well, here we are. We're 3 weeks into the new year.
Yeah.
And if nothing has gotten done, then what's going to stop them from saying, I'll just give it more time? Before you know it, now it's March. And now the year is a third over. So it does go by really, really fast when you don't really take some kind of proactive approach to it, to try to figure out, what is it that I really want to do? How can I get there? And how can I stay there? Yeah. And I think a lot of times, again, going back to our minds are really dangerous sometimes, because I think they fill us with more doubt and negativity sometimes than the positivity. I don't know what any of these stats are on it, but I would imagine that the thoughts you have during your day, they have to be, I would think, more of a negative side of things than the positive side of things. But I'd be curious to know what that is. But I think going back to understanding too, like having a better reality of who we are and what is our identity. We try so often to, I'll be this person because I want to be that person. And my, my identities in my job, my identities in my career, my identities with my family. And I think that's what's unique for us as, believers in God, is that, at the end of the day, our identity is in Christ. Mm-hmm. It's not us. It's all through him that he's put us on this earth for a purpose. And when you have that higher being that has put you here for a purpose and a reason, it does make it easier at times. I'm not saying it's super easy, because we struggle just as much as anybody else, but always being able to look back at that and say, well, why is this happening? Or am I not good enough? Or am I not, qualified enough or skilled enough? And going back and recognizing that it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, my identity is not in what I'm doing or what I'm accomplishing. It's in who I am in God and what I'm accomplishing for him. Mm-hmm. And I think that really makes a big impact. And, people that don't have that same faith, I don't know where they go when struggles, hit them like that. if they find their identity in something else.
Yeah, and a part of it goes back to the, not just seeing our identity in Christ, but that He's created us for something. He's created us for something. Like we were literally thought up in His mind before our parents did, and He created us to do something, and He laid it all out for us, and it's just a matter of leaning into that.
Yeah.
And seeing that, and I think, going back to our thoughts is like when you were struggle with, I'm not good enough, or I can't do that. I can't go back to school because I'm not a good student. I remember struggling that when I went to seminary. I was like, oh, I'm not a student. Talk about reading earlier. Man, I skimmed the cliff notes just to get through the test, and it was like, because I hated to read, and you just, and those thoughts come in your mind. Yeah, I'm just not that smart,
Yeah.
And yeah, we gotta break free of that because God made us incredible. And yeah, we're not as smart as we'll be tomorrow. So let's do something that'll make us smart. So by tomorrow we're a little smarter. And next day we're a little smarter. Next day we're a little smarter, That's why I love to read. I think, and I don't do it that often. That's why I, set some goals this year to say, hey, I got to create some steps to put it into play. So, if my goal's every day to read a chapter, and you know what, I did 3 last week. Like, that's not bad.
Yeah.
But really, that's 3 chapters. That's okay. I could finish this book within like a month, right? If I just do 3 chapters. So yeah, that's cool. So yeah, I think overcoming those thoughts is you're more than you think you are, much more than you think you are. And God sees you as much more than you think you are, so much more.
Yeah. And we always want to encourage our listeners in some different ways. And I think, as we're talking on this topic specifically, I would say to any listeners that are out there that, you have so much value in life. And some people may not recognize that, but doesn't mean you don't have value. We all have value. We're all created to do something significant. And it depends on, again, our mind and what our minds are shifting towards or away from to help us recognize that. And like you said, lean into what that is that we're supposed to do. And I find it very challenging. Sometimes I sit back and I ask God, like, is this it? Like, is there something else bigger I'm supposed to do at 50 years old? And I believe there are other things that I'm still supposed to accomplish here. I don't think it's just to sit back and, follow the career path I've had so far and, whatever success or failures I've had along the way. I still think there's more out there that, that He's created me to do and to be. And that's exciting, but also frustrating because you sit back and you wonder, like, well, what is the next thing? Is this it? And so I don't want to ever shortchange anybody. I don't think you should shortchange yourself because I think we all can accomplish, like you said, way more than we actually think we can. And that's an exciting place to be. That's exciting to think that, hey, this isn't my life. You're 60. Doesn't mean that this is the end of your story. You got plenty left to live and plenty of things left to accomplish. So imagine having that thought process and that insight when you're 20.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I wish I could go back to that thought.
Yeah.
But no, I was like 60 is so young to me anymore.
Yeah.
Hey, we just put in place a president who's, I don't know, what is Trump?
81?
81,
I think.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
And he's running I think that's awesome. Like, I just think it's awesome that somebody who's 81 years old can be doing what they're doing right now. Like, I just think that's amazing. And I think, we shortchange ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we talked about like why, we talked about obviously our thoughts and I know each of these subjects we could probably take forever on, but obviously we got to then take the appropriate actions. Because if we're not taking the appropriate actions, then we're not going to get where we're going. Right. So what are some tips you think of people putting into place the right actions in order to create where they want to go?
Well, I think like what you, what you said, first we have to think about the why. And then like the other thing you said is, vision. Are we having some kind of vision for the why? Like, what are the practical steps of it? So, all right, let's go back to the losing weight, losing fat. Want to get healthier. I want to lose fat, which most people are going to equate to the weight. So, how am I going to accomplish that? Why do I want to do it? So if your why is because you want to actually get thinner and healthier and have less weight on your body, that puts some bigger demand on the rest of your organs and everything else that causes more health issues, If that's your why, that's a wonderful why. Or I want to get healthier so I live longer to be with my kids and grandkids. So if that's your why, that's great. So then what are the action steps to that? And I think that's where a lot of people miss out because they're not thinking about, okay, here's what I need to do. And I think that's why when we write things down, even if it's a goal, I've heard this years ago that, you write down a goal, you're much more likely to accomplish it because it is in writing that you can refer back to rather than saying, oh, I have this goal in my head. And, it's by June, I'm hoping to accomplish this goal. And then all of a sudden it gets to like May 30th and you're like, oh yeah, wait, what was the exact goal there again? Because you didn't write it down and you didn't have the exact time frame. So I would say that would be the next thing is let's look at the action or, your why and then your vision for how you want to get there, what you want to do. And then that goes into the action steps. But I think one of the other things you're diving into there a little bit is habit, right?
Yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to do is before we get into the habits, you have to create the actions that can become those habits because if we don't, like I'm thinking like even on the calendar, like, so I even look at my calendar. So my goal is to work out 5 days a week, if possible 6. That's my goal. Okay, looking into the week. The reality is that doesn't happen a lot of times. But if it's on my calendar and these calendars are wonderful. Like you could just click on it and you can shift it around. So it's like, I can't get up at 7 o'clock tomorrow. This is like, I'm up till 11 o'clock tonight. Okay, so what time can you go to the gym tomorrow? Well, I can go maybe at 8 o'clock and I can still get to work on time or, whatever. But no, there's no way I could do it. I got to stop on my way home from work. So I'm going to try to get to work early. Not try. Whatever time, I'm going to quit. I'm going to go home. I'm going to stop at the gym on the way. So I got to pack my gym clothes in the morning or pack them tonight. So it's just thinking through each step so that you can do it. And if it doesn't happen, I love what you're talking about. You have 365, right? So if you're always like thinking 365, okay, so I messed up today. But tomorrow's another day.
Right.
So what time is the gym tomorrow? Right. And you put it back in your thing. So I think creating the action steps that are doable and not outrageous.
Yeah.
If you're going to, I threw out, one meal a week, one healthy meal a week, creating your meal plan. I know, you and I did we call the Lean 30 from ID Life. And one of the best things about that was learning how to create your meal plans for the week. So it's like, okay, what's your breakfast going to be? Because most people skip breakfast because they just didn't think about it. Now they're late for work and they just jump out right? What's your snack? What's your healthy snack going to be at between 10 and 11 before lunch? And it just has to be something healthy. And then what's your lunch? What's your healthy snack for the afternoon? What's your dinner, right? And it was great to write some of that out so that we were always prepared for the next day. So if I was out on the road all day, it's like, okay, I got my healthy lunch and I got 2 healthy snacks, And so I really think it's the action steps that are biteable. Like they're like that little bit of piece, like, okay, I can do that. And then again, if you messed up today, you got tomorrow, right?
Yeah. And again, you have to be consistent with it, and the consistency starts with step 1. You can't be consistent if you haven't started. Yeah. So, like you said, if even in that scenario you showed, like you said, most people don't eat breakfast because they get up late. They want to sleep in more, right? They don't want to get up early and prepare their day and have a habit that way. And that's a habit in itself. But if you have somebody who never eats breakfast, okay, maybe that's where you should start with. Let's have a goal of you're going to eat something healthy for breakfast, 3 days this week and see where that goes. And if you missed a day, so what? Try again the next day. And that's all about, the mulligans we talk about all the time. Your next day is your mulligan. You're going to try again because you have another one and another one and another one.
Yep.
So every day you can change that. And I think the other thing with that is another example I saw of that was, and this is from Craig Rochelle's book, is hitting the snooze button. How often we hit that snooze button and we go right back to sleep and we go back to sleep. And some people literally have their alarm for an hour ahead because they know they're going to keep hitting the snooze. And it's a hard thing to do, but in some ways it's a simple thing to try to work on, to just say, hey, if I'm supposed to actually get up at 6 o'clock, my alarm's going to go off at 6 o'clock. I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock. I'm not going to set the alarm for 5 and keep hitting snooze every 10 minutes for, for 50 minutes before it turns 6 o'clock. I'm going to actually get up when it says it. Because some of the research that he had done when he talked about that point was that you're not even getting any kind of restful sleep when you try to go back to sleep for those 10 minutes because it's so interrupted that you would have been better off to physically get out of bed and start your day at 6 instead of hitting the snooze for an hour and waking up every 10 minutes and getting interrupted and interrupted. So I think that's a great little test to do for a lot of people, because we all get up from an alarm. I would imagine most of us do.
Yeah, no, I love that one. Craig even goes into more detail about the harm it does to our bodies, because it puts our bodies through that stress maybe 3 or 4 times every single morning. And that's not good for your heart.
Yeah.
It's really not good for your heart.
It's like a fight or flight response, because you hear it, you react, quickly, as if something else happened that you would react with the same fight or flight. And you're calming it down, and then it's doing it again.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
That's a nice little tip for those who want to try that this year.
Yeah, so I love that one. Yeah, no snooze. And I'll tell you, that's a good one. I think I've done pretty well with that. I really do. I do set an alarm in the morning. Most of the time, I wake up before my alarm goes off. So that's just how it goes. I think my body's gotten used to the rhythm, depending on, I set my alarm different times every day. Sometimes maybe just 15 minutes or so off, which I know is terrible, but my schedule fluctuates. So sometimes I just take advantage of that. So what are some of the ways, thinking your actions go into habits, what do you think are some neat things that help you with some of the habits you have? Like maybe just some of the tidbits you walk through your day. This is the habit I've created. This is how it's helped. Like the no snooze. That's a great habit. What are some of the other things that you may do?
I mean, the other one for me that I've been really pretty consistent with for probably almost over a year now is when I do get up. I usually get up earlier than everybody in the house every day. But I get up even before I have to be ready, and I try to spend some quiet time in the morning. And I've been very consistent with that, which is good. It's helpful to start my day that way. Sometimes it's some prayer and the word, and being able to just engage in that for starting my day. So I've been very successful that way of keeping that habit going. The other is taking my vitamins regularly. For a lot of people, that's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, if I have them out in the morning, I'll take them in the morning. Fortunately for our company, the way that works is we take some in the morning, some in the evening, because it's just biologically better for our bodies that way. But I'll take, what I need to take in the morning at a certain time after I've had some food for the day. So very consistent with that pattern, very consistent with getting up at a certain time each day. And it's been helpful. And like you said, the other thing that I try to get in a habit of is trying to do some reading at least a couple of days a week, just to stay up on something there. But I think, again, just finding something small. A lot of people talk about, I was just talking to a patient the other day about drinking more water too, again. And that's another habit that, it's a simple thing. You're talking about trying to have a healthy meal or exercise 3 days a week. That's all great too. But how about just drinking more water and all the benefits you get from that? And most people, how much water? I don't know how much water to drink. And I tell everybody that I talk to about it, just drink a little bit more than you are now, and you're in a good start. You don't even have to worry about like, oh, I didn't drink my 60 ounces today. I only drank 40. You don't even have to beat yourself up that much about it. Just start to drink more than you are now, because I can guarantee you it's going to be better than what you've already been doing. So having that extra habit of having a little bit more water in the day, and then recognizing what it's doing for your body, and then increasing from there, I think is also another easy tip to try to get some other healthy habits in there.
Yeah. Well, since you're with the water bottle, some of you, this is great. Okay. You love it. And you got that 64-ounce water bottle, and you lug it around so you get your workout and your water at the same time. But sometimes it can be defeating. Again, as talk about habits that can be defeating. If you get to the end of the day and you've only drank half that water bottle, you're like, oh man, see, I didn't drink all my water today, So I think, Brian, what you're saying is so valuable that, just drink a little bit more. I filled my water bottle, I think it's 24 ounces, but I put so much ice in it, it's probably 12 ounces. But I usually fill it up for every meal. So I figure if that's 3 bottles a day, right? That's 12. That's 36 ounces of water. That's an okay amount, right? So, and then I usually drink, we'll drink one of our Slim or our Hydrate or one of those, so now you're drinking double that. So it's, I think just the little simple things that you could add to. And I think like, you talk about the vitamins. So I love our little packs, the vitamins, because every morning I get up, when I pull out the 2 packs, I got my morning and the evening vitamins, and we leave our evening vitamins right out somewhere we can see them. So like usually on a kitchen countertop is where we like to have them, right? But we'll leave us somewhere where they're in plain view, so we won't forget them at night. Like you got to go past them to eat dinner, because otherwise, if they're left still on the roll, right, I'll forget it, and I'll get up in the morning and it's like, oh my gosh, I never took my vitamins last night, So for me, it's just that little habit of leaving it somewhere where it's visual. and then pick it up. Same thing, I got my book and my Bible are the two books that pretty much stay on the desk all the time. So it's like they're in front of my face, so you sort of can't forget not to know. So
yeah, I think we talking about habits. It doesn't have to be dramatic things. It's little things that can add on top of each other. And again, when you start to see the benefit in whatever aspect of your life that you're looking to get better at, we can always get better. We can all get better in some way. And I think that's why, again, when you look at a new year, we have that opportunity to think that way a little bit more clearly, because it is a new, fresh year. We have no idea what this year has ahead of us. The old year, we can look back and think all the terrible or wonderful things that happened in that year, but we have it to look back on. We have nothing. We have no idea what this year brings. So even just creating some of these small habits, and I think building off of those. Another great book I read last year, which is one of the books that's on my list, was Atomic Habits, talking about habits by James Clear. Amazing book, and a lot of great practical things in there that talks about, your habits and how you can build off of them and how you can create new ones. And again, I think the biggest thing is not getting discouraged, because we're all gonna mess up. We're all gonna not meet our goals or hit our expectations. It's gonna happen constantly. But I think, again, that mindset of saying, it's okay. I got another day. So I didn't hit my goal today. I didn't hit what I was supposed to today. I only did, 25 push-ups instead of, 30 that I was hoping to do. 25 is better than none. 25 is better than 20. So I think it really does come back to a mindset, and establishing that mindset is tough depending on where your life is. It may be really hard to find the positivity in things, but we're always on here to try to encourage people and try to make sure that, you do understand that. Don't give up on that. I think a couple quotes here I know we had before we wrap up here. You had something to
say? Yeah, I was going to say one more habit. It's a silly, well, some of you might seem silly, but our kids used to pick on it first. But so my wife, Julie, and I, ever since, I don't know, we started dating or something. I don't know when we started it, but we would pray typically for dinner, because that's the meal we're definitely together for. And after we prayed, we'd kiss. And we created this habit where we pray before we eat, and then we kiss after we pray. And now two of our kids have caught on to that. And that's pretty cool. And it's like, it's just neat. So, and I know we have friends, we go out to dinner and stuff with, and they're like, oh, that's so cute, you still kiss him. It's like, yeah, but we're 36 years. We celebrated our 36 year anniversary, right, this year. And it's like, wow, we've been doing that for 36 years. That's crazy,
That's awesome.
But it's a habit, talk about habits. James Clear talks about this in the book, but the stacking habits, like one habit that leads to another habit that leads to another habit, is really good. So you have a couple quotes, Brian. God, why don't you, and then we'll wrap up here with everybody.
Yeah, these are actually from James Clear. So we tend to want to do what is easy, not necessarily what is best. So it's easy to think that way, right? Like, I'll just get out the easy way, even though I know it's not the best thing for me. I'll just do it the easy way. Another one I like he had was, desire is the difference between where you are now and where you want to be in the future. So what a great way to think about as we go into a new year with, again, 345 days left in the year now. But we still got plenty of year left for things to accomplish, for things that we can do, for things that we want to see and do. And, we're on here again to encourage each of you out there that each day, we didn't dive into exactly what our specific mulligans are from this topic, but I think the best way to approach it is every day is a new day. So you have a mulligan you can take every day for 345 more mulligans for the rest of this year, and then moving into the following year as well.
Absolutely. That's a good way to wrap it up, Brian. 365 mulligans a year. So good way to look at your year coming up.
We know everyone can use a second chance or a do-over. So take a mulligan and try again. Thanks so much for joining with us today. Make sure you follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Like, click, and subscribe.